Of the tape, you see Christian Hammer coming in 5 pounds heavier than for his last bout. Tony Yoka coming in a couple of pounds lighter than what we saw him at when he fought Johan Duopa. Round one of our main event. Tony Yoka in the blue trunks, Christian Hammer in the red trimmed with white and black. Hammer says, I'm going to bring this budding superstar back down to earth. Tony Yoka said he does expect some rounds, but you can read between the lines by the fact that they basically booked his next bout against Peter Milash for the European title. So you know he doesn't expect to be harmed in this fight, or for anything to happen that might put that in jeopardy. A lot of confidence in the Yoka camp right now, that right now does not include his head trainer, Virgil Hunter, who, of course, because of travel restrictions, couldn't be here. The remainder of his team can. Yoka looks for that uppercut. You see already Yoka bending at the knees, bending at the waist, changing levels. He has physical advantages over basically every heavyweight, every fighter on earth, not named Tyson Fury at 6'7" with a monstrous 82-inch reach. But he's not your typical robotic tall fighter. He's athletic, he's creative offensively. And he could be a handful if he sees that you're in trouble or he has you hurt. He has a lot to deal with. The jab to the body there from Yoka. Hammer looking a little softer around the midsection than we're used to seeing him. Yoka, as always, in tremendous shape. And, well, that's the second time in this round that Hammer has taken some liberties in the clinch. I'd call it veteran tactics, but those are just illegal tactics. Hammer not really a long-range fighter. He needs to be on the inside to get work done. And Yoka kind of inviting that to a degree, looking for a counter shot here in the opening frame. Bit of a messy opening round, but should be an easy one to score for Yoka.
Everything good?
Round two underway, and as you heard, the operative from Yoka's corner, is both fighters just sliding all over the place. Hammer looked like he was in distress. I don't know if there was a headbutt. Something happened there. Oh, yeah, there is a cut over the right eye of Christian Hammer. He's trying to blink his way through this. See if the doctor wants to take a look. Yeah, he will. Another the referee will take a quick look and we're back to action. But that will be a big problem for Hammer, who now is going to have even more difficulty seeing these shots like that whipping uppercut from Yoka. Yoka going to the body just like his corner asked him to. Said those shots are moving him back. Hammer, a durable guy. He has been stopped 3 times, but has only ever actually touched the canvas twice in his career. And one of those stoppages came in his pro debut when he suffered a shoulder injury. That fight ended very quickly, so it would be a statement for Yoka to pick up a knockout victory here. And right hands like that behind the ear of Hammer would be a good way to do it. Yoka said coming out of the Olympics that he didn't want to take 4 years to win a heavyweight title the way that Anthony Joshua did. Not that that's actually a long time, but he meant that he wanted to fast track his way to the title. But the well-publicized suspension that we referenced earlier for missing drug tests put a stop to that, put a halt in his career. But Yoka said he became a hardened man during that time, and he believes that if not for that suspension, he'd be in the heavyweight title picture right now. That's why he wants to get in there with guys like Hammer at this stage in his career. At 8-0, he still could be facing fighters at a much lower level. He doesn't want that. Oh, that was a 10-second marker. Again, a very confusing setup here where we're using a bell to referee indicating that was an accidental headbutt.
Début de la 3e reprise.
This round 3 is underway. So Yoka just pushing Hammer off. He doesn't want to be crowded or roughed up. Really, that's what Hammer's looking to do right now. Try and take Yoka into the later rounds. Yoka's been blasting guys out early. Only Dave Allen has been able to take him into the 10th round. Jonathan Rice, the only man to not be stopped by Yoka. Rice, a survival specialist who we saw against Efe Ajagba earlier this year in the top-ranked bubble. And Yoka, of course, has an American promotional contract with Top Rank as well. And if you're looking to become the heavyweight champion right now, that's the place to be. Of course, Tyson Fury under that same umbrella. And what a showdown that would be in the coming years, assuming all goes to plan for Yoka, assuming Fury remains in the sport. And Yoka hitting the canvas again. I think there's some issues with the canvas here. We've seen the fighters kind of sliding on some of those logos. perhaps because of that, you see Yoka kind of standing his ground a little bit more. Maybe less than ideal footing here for both fighters. This might actually favor Hammer, who wants the fight at this range. Of course, that means it needs to weather the power of Yoka, but still a better option than trying to win a long-range boxing match with the talented Olympic gold medalist. Yoka just jamming that jab in there right now. And Yoka said he expected some rounds in this fight, but ultimately felt he'd be too much for Hammer. I know that Hammer says he wants to take Yoka deep. So you'd have to think, given the added weight that Hammer's carrying around, that the later rounds might be to the benefit of Tony Yoka. And really, you can't blame Hammer. He had to take several weeks out of the gym after contracting COVID. He couldn't work out, or couldn't go to a gym anyway. Round 3 in the books. Of Tony Yoka, that perhaps solves the mystery of why Yoka's hit the canvas a couple of times here. His trainer told him, hey, just hit the canvas. If Hammer's laying on your back, just go down. You don't have to expend energy carrying a 265-pound man around the ring. Yoka now jabbing to the body. And really, you have to commend Yoka for the level of opposition that he has faced so far. I know that for reasons we've documented that he's not as far along in his career as he'd like to be, but look at the names that he's beaten so far. Dave Allen, we mentioned, Alexander Dimitrenko, Johan Duopa, now Christian Hammer. These are names that would be acceptable opposition for guys who are title contenders right now, guys who have fought for world titles. And Yoka is getting these guys out of there inside 8 rounds, excuse me, inside 8 fights into his pro career. So the start of his career has been tremendously impressive, even with the 1-year delay. You see Yoka doing what his corner told him to do. And at a certain point, the referee will probably take notice. Hammer could be in danger of having a point taken away. Yoka just measuring Hammer now with right hands. Trio of them connect for La Conquête. Final minute of round 4. Another right hand just wraps around the guard of Hammer. Hammer trying to bang away to Yoka's body. Right hand might have slipped in there. Yoka trying to return fire on the inside, but Hammer holds on. For what it's worth, that might have been the best sequence of the fight yet for Hammer. Connects there with a counter right hand. Now gets back behind the jab as he'll run out the end of the round. A little rough stuff again at the end of the round as Hammer with a shot behind.
5e reprise.
Round 5 begins. Corner of Yoka is of the belief that Hammer is starting to get frustrated. And all of this fouling that Hammer has been doing, the leaning on the back, the shots behind the head, those would be good clues of that. I think that's a fair assessment. At the same time, I'm sure part of this rough stuff is just part of the game plan for Hammer. Try and do the same to the young fighter, try and frustrate him. Yoka has said that his targets next year, very specific. Joe Joyce, Derek Chisora. So we'll see based on the outcome of tomorrow's fight between Joyce and Daniel Dubois. Maybe he wants to get a crack at Daniel Dubois instead. Regardless of the outcome of that one, there would certainly be some intrigue in a rematch of that Olympic final between Yoka and Joyce. Yoka measuring Hammer with that jab now. Good straight right hand, right down the pipe from Yoka, brings a jab behind it and another one. Hammer shakes it off. Yoka makes a face back as if to say, hey, you sure that one didn't hurt you? Final minute here of round 5. Corner of Yoka very confident. They're gradually breaking Hammer down, both mentally and physically here. But you would have to say that for a fighter for whom conditioning may be an issue in Hammer, that the tempo is not totally overwhelming for him, but these power shots at a certain point have to be. Good uppercut on the inside and an uppercut to the body from Tony Yoka. This is what we talked about, the offensive arsenal, the offensive creativity of Yoka for a man of his stature. Very, very impressive. Chopping right hand from Hammer and a jab drives Yoka back. That turns on the instincts for Yoka to fight.
6e reprise.
Round 6 of our 10-round heavyweight main event between Tony Yoka and Christian Hammer. Yoka trying to use Hammer as a measuring stick here. See how far away from potentially challenging for a world title. Maybe at the end of 2021, 2022, depending on how quickly they want to advance, depending on who holds the titles at that point. And Yoka has just been barreling through these types of veterans, guys who have been in world title eliminators, world title challengers, guys like Hammer. We mentioned Dimitrenko, Johan Duopa, we fought last time out. These are good learning experiences, but they're also good conversation pieces. These are recognizable names. These are guys who have fought the names that Yoka ultimately wants to face. The next step for Yoka, assuming he does get the victory here, will be to get the kind of fight that his rival Joe Joyce is getting tomorrow night, a fight against a fellow up-and-comer, another heavyweight who's on his way up. He's hoping to get some semblance of that in a European title bid against Peter Milosh. I mentioned that fight is all but signed, though not yet scheduled. You have to have that balance as you're coming up. Facing veterans, facing fellow prospects, and then ultimately you're ready to challenge for a title. The expectation when you win a gold medal is that you will win a world title one day. And more often than not, that is the case. Whoa. Hammer throwing an uppercut during a clinch there, and he will have a point taken away. Although no delay here for the wayward tape on the left hand of Yoka. Just a bigger hole for Hammer to dig himself out of. Yoka saying, come on, welcoming Hammer. Good little flirt.
Début de la 7e reprise.
Start of round 7. A point has been taken away from Christian Hammer, and he's been getting increasingly dirtier as the rounds have gone on. He's been leaning on Yoka, he's been hitting him behind the head. We saw the late shot that resulted in the point deduction. Not complaining of a headbutt. Goes downstairs and pops the head of Yoka back with an uppercut. Hammer still, frustration or not, very game, very durable. It's important to remember that just last year he went the distance with Luis Ortiz, who is one of the bigger punchers in the division. Maybe a lower tempo fighter than Tony Yoka, but he was still able to take those shots for 10 rounds. So it's not like stopping Hammer or not will determine whether Tony Yoka is the truth or not, but it would certainly be a statement if he could do it. In those exchanges, it's the difference in caliber in work. With Tony Yoka is throwing everything technically and anatomically correct. Hammer, you know, he can almost swing that right hand like a hammer at times on the inside. And chopping shots. It's messy, but it could be frustrating. As we mentioned, if you're not for real, if you're just a European level fighter, a domestic level fighter, you're not going to beat Christian Hammer. Hammer has been as high as number 3 in a sanctioning body before. Of course, fought Tyson Fury in the eliminator bout that ultimately sent Fury into his fight with Vladimir Klitschko, where he won the world title that he holds today. Hammer again just leaning on Yoka here on the inside, nowhere for Yoka to go. As the seconds tick away in the 7th round. Hammer box off the back foot. Round 8. Another one of the oddities in empty venue boxing. You heard in the corner of Hammer just the agony as they were working on that cut. This is not pleasant, having to fight through abrasions like this. And now Hammer again complaining of headbutts. And Yoka says, well, I'll eat this right hand instead. And no doubt there have been clashes of heads. Yoka bending down, Hammer very prone to kind of bull rushing. Even there, the heads came pretty close to one another. Now wraps a right hand around the guard of Hammer, does Yoka. Hammer has to kind of gather his feet to get back to the inside. Wonder if these shots are starting to take an effect as the tempo picks up in round 8. Hammer just waiting on the ropes for Yoka. Yoka looking for that opening, finds one with an uppercut on the inside. That cut really flowing on the face of Hammer. It looked like they had it under control. For all we know, it could be a new cut. He's been eating shots. There's been a lot of clashes of heads. A lot of chances to open up abrasions on the face of Hammer. Now Hammer being warned for the use of his head, despite his own protests. Good body shot from Yoka a moment ago. Digs a body shot with that left hand on the inside. Final 15 seconds of round 8. Tony Yoka surely in complete control on the scorecards, but getting a little bit of a lesson in veteran rough stuff.
Début de la 9e et avant-dernière reprise.
Well, you heard the corner of Tony Yoka, don't go out there and try and prove anything. So advocating for maybe not a safety-first approach here, but one that is definitely cognizant of what Hammer's trying to do here. In particular, I warned him not to lean over on the inside. Really, if Hammer's trying to find a home run shot, that would be his best hope, is a monstrous uppercut. That's some good body work from Yoka. And ultimately, this fight is going to lead to a discussion of where does Yoka rank amongst the young crop of heavyweights. And the fact of the matter is that the result of this fight might be more impressive than the process has looked at times. And that really, the winner of Dubois and Joyce tomorrow night, a lot of people are still going to determine them to be the head of the pack. But mentioned that Yoka's kind of going about this a different way. He's facing a lot of veterans that might be on the downswing of their career, guys who have recently been up at the world level. Still waiting for his breakout moment. And as we mentioned, he's targeting names like Derek Chisora in the new year. Ooh, good uppercut from Yoka. And it looks like we will finally deal with this tape issue that has been persisting for several rounds. Yoka there a moment ago, cognizant of that uppercut that Hammer's trying to throw, not leaning over, just catches that shot, gets back on the outside and works behind his jab. Less than a minute to go here in round 9. It's Tony Yoka, the new father of 2. Trying to replicate what his wife Estelle did to open our broadcast. Pick up another victory. And get closer to a world title set on the mantle alongside their pair of Olympic golds. Final 10 seconds here of round 9. Just one round to go here in our main event. The 10th and final round between Tony Yoka and Christian Hammer. You heard Tony Yoka's corner. He said, let's take this easy win. Let's not take any chances. Though, you know they'd love it if one of these shots took Hammer out there. There is no shame in going the distance with Mr. Hammer. Mentioned he's seen the scorecards with Luis Ortiz, with Alexander Povetkin. We saw the kind of puncher Povetkin is in his most recent outing with Dillian White. No one would accuse those fighters of not having power, and Yoka, no doubt, is a good puncher, but also is still learning as a professional. Still early in his pro career. He is just 8-0 right now. To even pick up 2 notable wins over 2 recognizable names in the year that has been 2020. You have to consider that you're coming out ahead of where you could have been. Yoka just catches those shots on the elbows from Hammer. Staying responsible here. The jab connects there from Hammer. He's still giving it all he's got here in the 10th round. You know that regardless of the results of this fight, there's still good paydays out there for Christian Hammer, but obviously much bigger ones were he to pull off a colossal upset here. Yoka was a substantial favorite on the betting lines, and you see why. Just a vast difference in skill and technique. You can be as tough as you want, but there's only so much you can overcome. And Yoka, in terms of educated boxing talent, is going to have an advantage over most heavyweights in the world throughout his career. And now as he bangs his chest, shows I'm a tough guy as well. And it'll get rough as we come to the end of this one. Tony Yoka taken.
Tous les 3 en faveur de l'artiste Tony